Welcome and thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here. As Robin has alluded to, I'm going to give a quick overview of some of the aspects key to candidates from CFA Institute, namely the CFA program. A little background about my role. So as Robin's mentioned, my name is Delmy Thompson, and as the Senior Director for Society Relations for the EMEA region, I have the pleasure of leading the team that looks after CFA Society Switzerland and 46 other societies across Europe, Middle East and Africa. A lot of what we've been doing over the last several months has been liaising with societies and candidates around the exam. So hopefully just a quick run through this morning should give you, this lunchtime, should give you a little bit more insight into how the process of the exam itself, registration, scheduling, the exam experience has changed over the last couple of years, the rationale behind that and how you can make the most of it. So without further ado, we'll run through a few slides and then happy to take questions. So the main rationale between moving from paper-based exam to computer-based is to improve the overall candidate experience and make it as personalized as possible and more flexible without affecting the actual examination itself. So we're talking about the examination experience rather than the exam. If you cast your minds back a couple of years, the exam was offered on 2 Saturdays a year. So including allowances for special circumstances sittings, you were looking at 4 days across the entire year where people could take the exam. And they were literally individual days. So now we've gone from 4 days a year to a total at last count of 93 days in which candidates can take the exams across the year, with each exam sitting, each exam window being open for 14 days. So rather than just the first Saturday in June or first Saturday in December, there's now up to about 93 days across the year where candidates can take the exam, giving far more options. In terms of locations, we've gone from 192 to over 400. And crucially for the exam experience, rather than some test centres, several test centres being large, such as the Excel in London was a classic example of having 10,000. I think the record was a centre in China with 14,000 delegates in one place. 90% of the test centres now have fewer than 25 people on site during the exam. The largest has 300, still quite large, but nothing like the 14,000. So the experience for the individual is far more comfortable. And then in terms of the amount of time required, you can see here some bullet points required during the actual exam day. It's gone from 9 hours to 5.5 without affecting the quality of the exam at all. So all the other things that candidates had to do just to be able to take the exam. One crucial point I'd like to make today is that although the exam itself is consistent worldwide, the actual, as I've mentioned before, the actual candidate experience is unique. And I'm just going to give a very kind of minutiae example as to what we mean by this. So you could be registered to take the exam at the same test centre as a colleague on the same day and possibly even within the same time frame. Your colleague may receive an email saying that unfortunately their exam has to be rescheduled either to later that day or the following day or the same day at a different test centre down the road. And it might be something as simple or as technical as the set of servers that were running the system on that bank of computers has a glitch which we need to iron out. So we need to move that set of candidates. Whereas people sitting 8, 10, 12 feet away could be linked to different servers and have no issues at all. Now that's a very specific technical example, but it just stresses the point that we have quite a few inquiries from candidates registered at a centre who will hear from colleagues or friends that that centre is closed on a specific day because their exam has been moved. When in fact the centre isn't closed, we've just had to move a specific group of candidates. So the one thing I would encourage all candidates to do is really look closely at the communications you receive. And if you have queries, follow the instructions about contacting your most likely Prometric, the local office, or possibly CFA Institute as well. Don't rely on communications that you hear from colleagues or friends or others that you know are studying for the exam. It really is a unique experience. In terms of windows, there's a quick diagram here, and this is all available on our CFA Institute website. This is now kind of the flow chart of when candidates can sit the different exams through the year. And one of the things that we have kind of mandated from the outset is that a candidate must wait 6 months before taking the following level once they're successful. So it's not possible, for instance, to take the February level 1 and then the next level 2, you'd have to wait until August to be able to take that. You couldn't take level 2 in August and level 3 in November. The next opportunity for taking level 3 would be May. So there is always a 6-month gap between sittings. Quite a detailed slide here, just to give you an overview of the steps that are involved in registering, scheduling, and actually taking the exams. These are the 4 windows that we have, the next 4 windows that we have coming up. And you can see one thing I would like to draw attention to, but which we have a lot of queries around, is it's a 2-step process to be able to take the exam under the new CBT settings. So once there's registration, obviously there's the early bird deadline. There's a registration process which will close, and then you have to schedule your exam within a short space of time. You can schedule as soon as you register, but you must schedule as well as registering. So registering will book you in to take the exam. Scheduling confirms your specific location and time slot. If you register but don't schedule, unfortunately, you will then lose your place and have to start the process over again. So we do encourage candidates to schedule as early as possible in the process. Kind of a quick flowchart here of the communications that you will receive as a candidate from CFA Institute and the local testing provider. In most cases, this will be Prometric. So obviously when you register, you'll have a welcome email from CFA Institute. You'll then get regular communications around reminders to schedule, etc. You take the exam and you have your results. On the day of your exam, you'll also be asked to do a post-exam survey. You'll have a prompt to schedule the exam appointment, and this will then appear on your candidate tile once you've scheduled. And also from the Prometric side, once you've scheduled your exam, you will get a confirmation from them, a reminder with specific details, and an SMS if you've opted into that as well, and then a notice from Prometric in terms of having a completion. So there's almost like a 2-pronged approach to communication. A little bit of an overview to things that are going on behind the scenes when it comes to exam day itself. So during each exam window, so a 14-day period, obviously we are in constant contact with the vendors, those providing the exam facilitation on the ground. They have a 24/7 command center running. We're meeting with them on a twice daily basis and in constant comms in various channels around any potential issues, local government changes, anything that might affect the delivery of the exam on site. We have constant feedback from candidates, as you can imagine, from all around the world with questions or things that they've spotted going on that we'll be monitoring. We have regional offices. In the last count, we're now to 7 or 8 regional offices, including so in EMEA, that would be London and Brussels, and the one in Abu Dhabi as well, who are constantly engaging with our societies, crucially, and looking at anything that's being flagged on social media that we're hearing from local company, institutional contacts around potential issues, all things that they've been looking forward to. And then my team, the society relations team, will be responding to anything we hear from your society in Switzerland or other societies across the region, and making sure that everybody's in the loop. So all of this goes on throughout every single 14-day period when the exam administration is open. In terms of additional resources, we get a lot of questions on how can I give myself the best chance. First and foremost, and I'm not just saying this because they're on the call, I really would encourage all candidates to tie in closely with the CFA Society in their local market, with colleagues that you know are studying, or any study groups, WhatsApp groups, whatever channels are being used. And then there are some specific links here to resources that are at your disposal as well. This one is obviously around how to schedule and register and schedule for the exam. There is a step-by-step walkthrough. This is a video produced by Prometric, which is not specific per se to the CFA exam, but it's a guide for anyone who registers at a Prometric test center on what they can expect when they arrive on site, from walking in the door to actually sitting their exam. And then this is a very useful one here, which will give you a first-hand overview of the actual exam software. So what the screens look like, how they work, the prompts you'll receive, how you can go back to a previous question. And the society team have all these links and we'll be able to share them with you as well. And then finally, just a quick summary of how or which queries should be going to which team. So if you have as I mentioned earlier, my overriding advice would be please read any instructions, any emails you get from Prometric and CFA Institute, but specifically from your local Prometric office, will always have a direction of how to contact them if you have queries. Please follow that in the first instance. And then in terms of rescheduling, queries about cancelled appointments or any general test centre questions should go to Prometric, and broader questions can come to CFA Institute through the email address info@cfainstitute.org. I'd also highly recommend going to the CFA Institute website and especially the CFA exam updates page, where a lot of the information that I've shared this morning is available for you to look at, download and save as well. And on that note, I'm happy to pause or stop there and take any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Delma. We do have a question in the Q&A section. I'm just going to read it out. A part of curriculum books that are provided, which additional materials would you recommend to use while preparing to the exam? Are there any mock-up tests available?
Yes, there are. We certainly, if you go through the candidate tile, there should be links in there to mock exams, and certainly some more resources on the CFA Institute website. So if you go to the CFA exam page on the CFA Institute website, there are a whole host of resources on there. And in the candidate tile, you can access things as kind of mock questions and a mock exam. If you can't find any of that, please do send a message via the society and we'll help call that out a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, fantastic. I know Sheila also has something on it, which might be, if there are no other questions, I'm going to give everybody 5 seconds to write down another question for Delma. Otherwise, I'm going to hand it over to Sheila and Nicole. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, Delma. And welcome to the stage, Sheila and Nicole. Over to you for a section on the CFI Society.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks very much. And so just to be clear that now we're going to stop talking about what the Institute does, which is manage and the exam and coordinate all of the aspects of the accreditation, the CFA accreditation. What we're going to be talking about is what the CFA Society Switzerland does to help our Swiss candidates pass the exam. I'm Sheila Olin. I'm a CFA and now currently CEO of the CFA Society Switzerland. And I've had multiple years of experience doing portfolio management, specifically equities, global equities. And now I very much enjoy delivering the CFA mission and target to the Swiss community.
Okay, hello everyone, my name is Nicole Seitz. I'm the candidates manager at CFA Society Switzerland. I recently joined CFA Society actually a month ago. Maybe a bit of my background. I have experience from financial services, having worked with McKinsey, UBS and Credit Suisse, and I'm looking forward to support you in becoming a CFA.
Good. Now, just to give some background on what the CFA Society Switzerland looks like. The first point is that we're founded in 1996 as a nonprofit organization. And the point here is that we're relatively newer than the Institute, and we are a separate legal entity from the Institute. So there is 2 different organizations that you get to deal with. The CFA Society Switzerland has more than 3,000 members. And that makes us one of the top 10, makes us number 9 in the total worldwide ranking of CFA societies. And that puts us 2 in Europe, assuming that the UK is part of Europe. Otherwise, we're number 1 in Europe, and the UK is number 1 in the UK. Yeah, so if we go to the next slide, this may be a little bit hard to read, but it is available in our annual report. And what it shows is the type of the membership, our membership base in Switzerland. And it shows the top employers of our CFA members, and just the top 5 are UBS, Credit Suisse, Pictet, Julius Baer, and Von Tobel. So a good representation in the major banks. And in the occupations, what they actually do, portfolio manager, research associate, consultant, financial advisor, relationship manager, risk analyst. So we have basically all of the financial institutions represented and most of the occupations that CFAs enjoy. This is important because the CFA Society of Switzerland membership provides a broad network for learning about the industry, for networking with other members in the industry. And that's a key feature of what the CFA Society of Switzerland offers. We also offer continuing education. We offer events. We have an annual dinner, and all of which should enhance your professional capabilities. That is what you're looking forward to. And I think now Nicole is going to tell you what we're offering actually the candidate members while you're on the in the journey towards becoming a CFA.
Yes, thank you very much, Sheila. So what you are seeing here on the screen, it's again in small print, but it's actually a screenshot from our website. So we have a whole section only for candidates. We do a huge effort to support our members to reach their goals and become CFA charter holders. So in detail, well, in order to become a candidate member, you need to be enrolled into the CFA program. And you get lots of benefits from us. So by enrolling, you already demonstrate that you are committed to professionalism, to professional excellence. You can benefit from a discount with Kaplan Schweser. You can expand your knowledge by joining events and conferences. We also offer WhatsApp groups. So depending on your interest, there are WhatsApp groups which you can connect and thereby increase your knowledge and network. You can also connect with like-minded peers. Now that Corona allows us, we have on-site events. We had recently an apéro in Geneva, which we support, which we host. So we welcome our members there. We invite you to connect on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever media is available to stay connected and exchange ideas and grow. We offer access to new career opportunities. So we have a job website where job advertisements are offered, but we have also a career support service. And obviously through the network, there might job opportunities come up for you. We have a member value pack where we cooperate with other companies, for example, with Credit Suisse. So if you are interested in more details, please check our website. And I would briefly also touch on the membership forms. So as Sheila already said, we need to distinguish between the CFA Institute and CFA Society. The CFA Institute, once you are a CFA charter holder, you need to enroll with them in order to keep your CFA accreditation. So this is mandatory actually. Being a member of the CFA Society Switzerland is voluntary, and we have 3 different forms of membership. One is for the regular member, for the CFA charter holder. One is for an affiliate member. These are persons who are not charter holders, but are still qualify actually to become a member of our society. And then, and this is referring to you, become a candidate member of the CFA Society. So I think I touched on all topics. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I see if I can answer them. Thank you.
Great, excellent. Thanks to both of you. I see only one question in the Q&A section, and that one is more directed towards Delme. So if anybody still has a question for Nicole and Sheila from the society, please raise it now. Yeah, I see one now. Do you know how many CFA Institute members there are in Switzerland? This could be, I don't know if Sheila and Nicole, you are aware of this, or if it's also towards Delme. Again, we're talking about the Institute here.
Yeah, generally, our members are also CFA Institute members. That's as Nicole described, it's mandatory to be an Institute member to maintain your CFA designation. We have over 3,000 members fitting that category. And there are several hundred who are members of the Institute keeping their CFA accreditation, but who don't join the local society. What we're hoping is that we offer an interesting opportunities within Switzerland, so that it's not, once you become a CFA, this is, I think, one of the special things about the CFA organization is that it's not just the accreditation, but there's like an alumni group, which the CFA Society Switzerland is very involved in, where we look to have your continuing education needs with interesting webinars. Also, and very importantly, the networking capabilities through professional learning, through networking events, for special events, our annual dinner and so forth. And if you ask a career expert, they say what's important for career advancement is networking. We run a very interesting career series. And the one thing that is consistent is network, network, network. That's very important for career advancement. And to support our community, we offer those networking opportunities several times a month.
Yeah, and maybe a bit of an anecdote for myself. Fully transparently, at the beginning, I didn't know the difference between the society and the institute myself. I had reached out to a few people in Switzerland because I was just moving to Switzerland. And it was because so many people who are in the society were really nice in answering my questions that I had on a professional level, or even for the CFA exams and their experiences. That's actually the reason why I decided to become a member and then even volunteer. So I can totally support what Sheila was just mentioning, that it is a nice network, most of the time very, very responsive, very diverse, and yeah, it's a great thing to be part of. Any other questions for Sheila and Nicole from the society? Otherwise, one question that's more towards you, Delme. Somebody asked when the exam results will be available, assuming we take the exam in February. Is there anything that you can provide a bit of perspective on?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Robin, and thanks for the question. So the guidance that we give is exam results are expected to be out between 8 to 10 weeks after the exam window has closed. We don't have a specific date, and that is purely to be completely transparent, but it may move slightly, very slightly, depending on the size of the cohort for each exam level and each exam window. Obviously, it varies from each sitting, but the guidance that we give is between 8 to 10 weeks after the exam window closes. So the last day that you can take the exam, which is visible on the website, you should be expecting the results to be available then.
Fantastic. We received one question before, and I think you have already partially answered it, Delme, but I still want to give the person the chance to have it answered directly. It was about the impact of the Institute on Prometrics and the quality and organization of the test centers. If you can provide a bit of perspective on that, that would be great.
Absolutely. So as I'm sure you can imagine, through the kind of May and summer sittings, we've received a lot of feedback from candidates and societies. I have to say the societies, and particularly CFA Society Switzerland, have been very good at keeping us well informed of what's happening on the ground in terms of communication that's coming out from Prometric, how candidates are finding the experience, whether things are going smoothly and to our standards. So we have run a series of 4 deep dive workshops with Prometric senior management at literally at kind of executive level since the summer sittings, and are now kind of tightening up in terms of our expected protocols from them. They are applying or implementing additional customer service personnel to be able to engage more closely with our candidates. There is a dedicated CFA Institute team at Prometric now, and we are closely monitoring all the communications that go out, the timings that go out, and our exam team are in literally constant dialogue with each Prometric office around any particular, whether it's a COVID regulatory close down or expected local kind of impacts. So yeah, there's very close communication and increased accountability. But please do keep the feedback you have. Please keep it coming. You're obviously at the end, when you sit the exam, there is a survey about the exam experience, but also please feel free to pass feedback directly to the Institute via the email address info@cfainstitute.org or through the society as well, if you prefer.
Great, thanks for the perspective on that. And then I also want to give Sheila and Nicole the chance to answer the question that we had before for Delme. I know you answered it partially on your slides, but remember the question was, apart from curriculum books that are provided, which additional materials would you recommend, not only as you, the CFA Society, but maybe even you personally who have done the exams while preparing for the exam? So maybe Sheila, if you want to start, Nicole, you obviously welcome to provide some perspective as well.
Sure. Thanks very much. I think that it's a challenging exam, and it's useful to get as much support as possible. It is a self-study exam, and since the time I took the exam till now, the CFA Institute is providing a lot more ancillary help. So for example, they give, in addition to the curriculum books, which are pre-prepared, they are also giving sample questions and even mock exams. And I think that's really good. And it's great for someone who is doing a self-study program and is able to do that. However, sometimes you realize that there are certain areas that might be more problematic and that you'd like to have more assistance with. And that's where Nicole and the CFA Society Switzerland are looking to develop other workshops that might be provide further help. So they're all on our website. So if you check the website, you'll be kept up to date. But for example, many people have challenges with derivatives pricing, which is a particularly technical issue. We recommend someone who's providing workshops in that area. Another area, and this is particularly true for people who don't have English as their native language, the level 3 has for an essay portion, an essay question. And we have someone who specializes in preparing individuals for that question itself. Not just the curriculum, but how you structure it and what's necessary to include in the essay, how to structure the response and so forth. We have that, plus we have discounts on some of the standard overall providers like Fitch, so that by going through us, you'll get a discount on the standard material. Having spoken to some recent candidates who have passed, what's helpful, it depends really on what your background is, what you feel your strengths and weaknesses are. But we're very interested in making sure that if you need some help, and this is Nicole's focus, is that we vet and find the type of support that you need to get through the exam. And we're also, one thing that might be useful is just the WhatsApp groups, communities that are there, which I think, all the professional help, but sometimes it's just helpful just to hear someone else's, what someone else is experiencing while they go through this exam course. And we have various WhatsApp exam for levels, different levels of people taking the exam. And that just can be very helpful, if only for moral support.
Yeah, I can certainly certify that the WhatsApp group were fantastic for emotional recharge. Everybody who knows studying for the exam is sometimes time intense and stressful, etc. So it's great to have other people who are stuck in the same situation and just share some thoughts with each other. So I can certainly confirm that. Anything else from your side, Nicole, that you want to?
No, I think what Sheila said was already very comprehensive. Actually, I haven't done a CFA myself. I have an MBA, but I would also stress the point that that networking, both being a candidate and also being a member, not a normal member, helps very much in progressing, both for the exam and also in your career. Definitely.
Fantastic. I see, and I can empathize with that, I see a lot of passion for exam questions, which most likely will be more for Derme. So sorry, Derme, I have to ask you again to come on back on the stage. One of them is why, so since it's computer-based exams now, the question is, why does it take 8 to 10 weeks? Aren't the results calculated automatically immediately on the spot?
No, well, first of all, obviously nothing can start until the exam window has closed, because there is actually a great video, and I will share a link with the society around. It's a gentleman called Chris Weezy from the exam team, who posted it on LinkedIn recently, explaining how the exam results are calculated and the process that's gone through, that it's not kind of a forced curve approach, and there is a pass that once the cohort has been analysed, the data has been analysed, that a pass level is agreed with our board, and then results communicated. So there's a lot of work that goes on in collating all the data, reviewing, obviously checking each kind of question, and then just validating the process that our own team have gone through to ensure it's been robust and consistent with previous years and previous sittings. So no, it's not an automatic. It's not like many of the other kind of psychometric style tests or smaller modules like I'm studying for at the moment, where you get an instant result based on your submission. There's a lot more kind of analysis that goes into that to ensure the results are consistent.
All right, thanks a lot. Second question for you, may you elaborate a little bit on the recent low passing rates?
Certainly, and again, the video that I will share the link to from Chris addresses this directly. The data that we're analyzing at the moment, the exam, to take a step back, so the exam kind of content and rigor of testing has followed all the same processes that we have ever kind of implemented. So there is nothing new or different about the way the exam is designed or its rigor from previous years. It's simply being delivered in a computer-based environment rather than pen and paper. So the kind of, if you like, the standard of the exam is exactly the same level and as kind of scrupulous as we have been in the past. The single biggest factor that we have identified over the last year, obviously, is the amount of disruption from COVID cancellations, from restrictions, from limitations to people being able to access test centres, or certainly in reduced numbers. And for many people, unfortunately, the need to defer their exam more than once, that we are seeing has caused significant disruption. And that is addressed directly in the video from Chris. We do expect some people who've had their exams deferred. There are still a cohort of individuals who've not yet sat their exam, who've had it deferred. So we know some people are still experiencing that disruption, which I think ties back to the earlier questions about what can you do to give yourself the biggest chance. And Chris's advice, and I'm sure the society would reiterate this, is wherever possible, and we appreciate this is difficult if the exam has been deferred more than once, but to treat this as if it was the first time you were going for it. Not to try and certainly not to fall into a trap of thinking, well, I covered this, I studied this section of it in very good detail a few weeks ago, a few months ago, so I'm comfortable with that. To treat every, to step up in the final weeks before your exam in the same way you would as if it was the first time you were scheduled.
Perfect. Thanks. One more question I have so far, and please, that's also appropriate everybody else. If you still have questions, please raise them now. Somebody asked, the total time for the test is about 9 hours, based on what you said. This person's schedule exam level 1 is only 5.5 hours. Is there a mistake in the scheduling tool?
No, so the total time of the previous experience, the amount of a day that the candidate would have to give up for the paper-based module was around 9 hours in terms of the amount of time you had to, before the exam, that you needed to be on site, the length of the break in the middle, and then needing to stay on site while papers were collected, etc. So under paper-based testing, it was give or take 9 hours. The CBT module, the CBT approach, is about 5.5. So if you're seeing about 5.5 on other resources, that is correct.
Okay, perfect. Two more. Okay, the first one is COVID related. Will COVID certificate will be required to access test center in Geneva in February? Now I know it's still some time to go, and I don't think you have a glass ball, but yeah, please share some perspective.
To be honest, without sounding like a complete politician, I would refer to my earlier answer in that, first of all, you're absolutely right, Robin. There's no way we can tell at this point in time. And again, I would encourage everyone to stay very closely linked with the specific test center that you're registered for, and their kind of guidance to you. To give you an example, we had an instance several months ago out in the Asia Pacific region, where someone asked a question on the Reddit social media platform, and they said, do I need to print off my exam registration slip and bring it with me? And someone replied saying yes on Reddit. And everyone else was in an uproar saying, well, I've been told I don't need to. And there's massive confusion because it was very specific to each center. Some centers required a paper printout, some didn't. You could bring it on your phone, etc. So again, the strong advice is please keep very, very closely in contact with your specific test center.
Okay, perfect. I see one more in the chat. Will we be briefed on computer software right before the exam?
There is an experience as you check into the center. There will be a prompt where you'll be run through. You have a chance to experience how the software works. But also say that that video that we shared gives a very good insight into, it may not be identical, specific screen layout, colors, etc., but it's a very good run through on the software that will be used.
Great. I see no more questions in the Q&A section and no more questions in the chat box. As we've been answering questions for quite a while now, I assume that means there are no further questions, which basically leaves me with two things. First of all, obviously, thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Demo, for making the time, for explaining the different roles of the different entities, for explaining who to talk to for what kind of issue. I think as a candidate, that's the most important piece. As everybody knows, studying for the exam and preparing for the exam is an emotionally charged time, and it's good to know who to talk to.